I don't want to, deviate, but, some people will say that oftentimes what parties do will either leave Nigerians with more choices or no choice at all. And that's usually what happens. I mean, you talk about we're in a democracy, but oftentimes what we see in parties is that, there's an autocracy, as it were. And then, it is only when it comes to the open field, when the candidates have been picked and people don't really have much of a say, that, any form of democracy actually comes to play. And that's why these questions being posed by Ajuri
I think
very important.
When we talk about autocracy, I think it's a situation where power flows from one point. But in this instance, there's a working committee. And decisions of the working committee is democratic. Because we are not one person, we are a group of people.
We will see how democratic they will prove to be in the coming days. But let's talk about INEC's preparations right now. I mean, there's only so much that INEC can do within the parties. I think usually they call them to observe what is going on. But outside of the parties, at the end of the day, when parties have nominated their candidates, INEC takes over from there in terms of preparations and what have you. Are you satisfied so far with INEC's preparations for the 2019 elections? Let's even take the immediate elections coming up in Osun and Ekiti. Are you satisfied with what you've seen, or are you raising eyebrows?
For now, I have nothing to worry about, because I have to act or react based on the information available to me, whether it's limited. The truth here is that INEC has made promises. They've given assurances that for any new election, they have to improve on what they are doing. And where we must take into account one simple fact, that these things are not cast in iron. For me, for every electoral process, it gives you an opportunity to learn from your mistakes, to improve on the next one. And I think these are the assurances INEC has given from what I read in the papers. I don't work in INEC, so there's a limit to the information I'll have with regards to their preparations and operations. But for now, I have no reason to doubt their capability or their capacity to deliver on a credible election. More so, government has reassured the nation of its commitment to ensure that if there's any other one legacy we intend to leave as a party, it's that we have credible election, a credible process through which leaders at various levels are thrown up to serve the nation.
He says the only way the president can win a re-election bid because of his performance so far is to rig the elections. How do you respond to that?
It sounds funny, because if you listen clearly to my friend, Mr. Pierce, you find out that he's somebody who is sermonizing out of desperation. These are people who understand the polity. They were in PDP. They ran this country aground. They ruined the country completely. As at the time we came into the country to take office as a political party with a presidential candidate, then who later became president by the will of the people, everything had come to practical standstill. The country was at the verge of collapse. They ran this country at a point where we were selling oil between $100 and $120 a barrel. We made so much money. We had no savings. We had no infrastructural investment. They took away all the money. They made no investment in agriculture. They had no plan.
Are you being completely,
So by the time we came into office, we started rebuilding the entire structure.
Dr. Mogalu,
and the results are coming out on daily basis.
Dr. Mogalu, I hate to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but when you talk about they had no plan, they did nothing in agriculture.
Not only agriculture.
Just a moment. Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, we have been told, did a beautiful work in that department. And we have been told that right now his successor, Chief Audu Ogbe, who is the current Minister of Agriculture, is continuing with the policies that were started with, and that's the reason why we're beginning to see some benefits in agriculture. There are some plans that they started with, and some things that the APC-led government has quickly completed, and people are able to use, such as the Abuja-Kaduna Rail, for instance. So when you say that they had no plan and did nothing, are we being completely truthful?
Government, they were in office for clear 16 years, uninterrupted. And they made quantum of money. Have you sat down to take a cursory look at the amount of money Nigeria was making as a nation? And we had no savings as a country.
Are you taking a look at the at the PDP in entirety from 1999?
Oh, certainly, yes.
Till now? Because
that's why I said
if that is the
PDP
case, some people will say that some of your members should also be taking responsibility for
Fine.
that.
If they had repented and joined APC, so be it. But the truth is that PDP as a party was in control of government from 1999 to 2015 that we took over. It's clear. It's not subject to any question. But the point here is that, like Dr. Piers was talking about the country, they didn't talk about the investment this government has made in security, the investment we have made in infrastructural development. I take Southeast, for example. You remember the second Niger Bridge? Every 4 years, there will be a ceremony to flag off. Just before every election, there's a flag off. Before every election, there's a flag off. And nothing was done until this government came into office. 3 days or 4 days ago, the resident engineer of the Federal Ministry of Works released a report that 46% of the bridge had been completed.
Not the bridge.
The foundation, the basic work for the bridge has
It's
been
always
completed.
very important to be
it's important. No, certainly it's a process. It's a bridge, it's a long bridge, it's a very serious infrastructural development that requires the technology to do it and do it properly. But at least work has started. I'll give you another example. Enugu-Onitsha Express Road, Enugu-Port Harcourt Express Road. As at the time these people were in office, we had our sons and daughters who were at the center of the table. Nothing was done. We allowed our infrastructure to collapse to a point where getting them back to function becomes a very great responsibility. So if that is not to say that there were one or two things they did, you cannot rule out completely that the government that was in office for 16 years didn't do anything. No, you can't say that.
Let me ask you, how do you react to the statement by Tanko Yakasai, who led that delegation to General Babangida, saying that the North has been voting for people before now, and we have seen no benefits accrue to us? How do you respond to that?
It depends on what he actually is saying. Is it a personal benefit to him or a benefit to the nation, a benefit to the people of northern Nigeria? And then when you look at it, okay, how would you say there's no benefit and the issue of insecurity is being addressed effectively in the north? How can you talk about no benefit and the rail line is in process? How can you talk about no benefit and agriculture is being revitalized? How are you going to talk about no benefit to the people and emphasis is being laid on education? How can you talk? You see, we must be honest with ourselves. Every one of us have our individual expectations. It may be personal, it may be group, it may also be national, but we must be sincere. When something good has been done, please be honest enough to credit the person who did it, that he has done well. It serves two purposes. It encourages the person to do better. And also, it sets a standard for the person, when he leaves office, the next occupant of that office will now have a basic standard to operate. Government is an institution. It is not about one person. It's about laying foundations, it's about laying blocks. You can't finish all what Nigeria requires in one regime.